My MGRP essential question was, how does music in indie video games elicit an emotional response? I chose this question because I love listening to these instrumental scores, and these songs often make me feel as much emotion as games with much larger teams and budgets do. Most big budget video games have graphics so advanced you can count the pores on people's faces. However, I wanted to know how tiny teams on shoestring budgets use music to tell subtle stories and make people feel their feelings like advanced motion capture could. The first answer that I got to this question was leitmotifs. According to the article, An Examination of Leitmotifs and Their Use to Shape Narrative in Undertale, a leitmotif is a short, constantly recurring musical phrase associated with a particular person, place, or idea. This dates back to 19th century opera, where composers first started using this to signal a certain character's presence to the audience. I've noticed leitmotifs in many indie games, but I wanted to do a case study on one game in particular. My approach to this project was to take my article research and apply it by looking for the impact of soundtracks. While the framework was from sources, all observations are mine. Without further ado, a Leitmotivic analysis of Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is an indie video game developed by Team Cherry with music by Christopher Larkin, released in 2017. Before I can analyze leitmotifs, I need to explain the story. The game opens with our character jumping down into a ruined kingdom known as Hallownest, while a poem is shown. Before you arrived, the kingdom was built by someone called the Pale King, who the aforementioned poem is about, and then everyone got infected by a sickness known as... The radiance corrupts people's minds and makes them violent. To stop this, the Pale King makes vessels with no mind to think, no will to break, and no voice to cry suffering. The empty vessel will seal the blinding light that plagues their dreams. And after a ton, and I mean a ton, of failed attempts, he gets one successful vessel. But then, caught up in the thrill of parenthood, he treats the vessel like his own child, and it feels love for him, and then has emotions to be corrupted by... But the vessel still goes and gets the infection to seal it away once and for all, and he is put in a super secure temple. The way to beat the game is to break open the temple, defeat the impure vessel in combat, and then absorb the infection yourself and let the cycle repeat when another traveler comes along and opens up the temple. The first leitmotif that I want to talk about is the Pale King's leitmotif. It goes like this. This melodic phrase is found all over Hollow Knight and signals to the player that whatever is happening on screen is connected to the Pale King. For example, when you go through the White Palace, the Pale King's palace, this motif is everywhere. In addition, when you meet the White Lady, the Pale King's queen, her song also uses the Pale King's leitmotif. And that poem that was shown at the beginning of the game? Let's listen to that one more time. Lastly, fans theorized that this major character, Hornet, is the daughter of the Pale King, and one of their biggest pieces of evidence is in her battle theme.
Shaw!
Yup, that's the Pale King leitmotif. Speaking of battle themes, Christopher Larkin uses a leitmotif in almost every single boss song. It is this descending figure here. A variation on it is heard in Hornet's theme. And in the fight against the impure vessel. And in the soundtrack for a fight that I couldn't get footage for. And in your fight against. Larkin uses association here. Since this leitmotif is only used in high-stress situations, the anxiety that it brings is compounded in each fight that you hear it in, making the impact the leitmotif has stronger each time. Finally, I would like to mention one final leitmotif used throughout the Hollow Knight soundtrack, fittingly what I'm calling it, the Hollow Knight motif. This motif first appears when the player first opens the main menu. To quote the same article as before, in Undertale, the main theme is used to elicit a sense of home and safety, and to serve as checkpoints for the player at critical points in the game. Hollow Knight contrasts this by using its main theme to carry the narrative weight of the game's cycle. This motif. This mainly appears in one track aside from the menu theme, and that is the song for the final fight of the game, called Sealed Vessel. This is modified and also makes use of the boss motif. The melodic similarities in each motif are clearly apparent. This makes the fight feel inevitable, like it was meant to happen since the first moment that you open the game. This song also uses one more technique for narrative power. Larkin defies expectations with Sealed Vessel, and the impact of this is demonstrated in the article, Music and Emotion, How Do Sad Songs Make Us Cry? It states, expectancy is one of the most interesting ways music creates an emotional response. It has to do with where we think the music is going next, and if it goes where we expect it to, or not. Like when a beat finally gets dropped in after a lot of build-up. Just listen to this clip. Every other boss fight in the game has had up-tempo, clarion call battle themes, but this transition conveys the tragedy very appropriately. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that I was able to teach you something about this very weird niche subject that I enjoy.